Okay, so now you know that much. Now I'm going to show you something else. Every computer that is actually on the network and whatnot, it says connection type DSL PPOE and whatnot. If you're having an upper transfer problem with not getting a signal there, then you want to take that PPOE off on the connection, because more likely you have too much static already up in the telephone line that it can't handle. That's more for cable customers or a FiOS customer with a PPOE. You can kind of use it, but you'd be better off DHCP, which is a direct admin. It's a direct admin current protocol. That means an admin actually looked at it. This right now they have nothing that says a NT actually took a look at this and said, "Oh, that's okay," or an IT. But anyway, if you're trying to drag it up through the modem, you're wasting your time. Because I know what they're trying to do, but you need a repeater, and the easiest way to get a repeater up the hill is to put a box down. Not the same type of box you have there, a pole box on an electrical line, a small green one. If you ever look at Comcast setup in Williamsport, you'll see one. Or you can just do a regular repeater, because right now you have someone out in the open as far as their connection. It's not mine, because I'm not connected to any servers. Otherwise, I'd probably have to move, because this one is junk. Mainly because you're not hooking up the right wires, but that's another thing. So we'll go here. And a lot of people, like Verizon kind of makes a big deal about showing these. It's not that bad to be showing, but anyway. Alright, so there's the 3 computers and whatnot. It's kind of fuzzy. Alright, I want to get to the good part. Because you can up the speed rate on this, and the problem of it is that if you can't get the speed rate up, then you gotta go to the repeater. Alright, this is what I'm talking about. Now you'll see the UDP right there. That UDP should never be exposed to any of your customers, except the one who has it. Now, that's not my UDP. I know what the UDP is on this router, and that's not what it is. Now, when you start looking at Verizon, you start looking at these numbers, and you start coming back here. And I was talking about earlier was the 192168. That N number, that really long N number, the 53346, there's a client or a customer. All those are customers right there. And you shouldn't actually, how to put it? I mean, a repeater, you can do it almost what they call a high performance home repeater for about $150. But how do you put it all the way through the line? You put a junction on the box, or you bridge the box itself in its main connection from the switch to the router. So what happens is you turn your repeater into technically a computer, and then you just jump it straight into the computer, and then you put the software program in that you took away from a lot of these people up here, and that software admin program, which is the IT or the ET version, or the TE version, and you do it correctly and do what's called self-distribution. But this, I mean, this is actually using remote resources off the computer of a person, and you're doing it all the way up that connection. I haven't been asked to look at this. I just wanted to see who was on the router because it got awfully slow. You shouldn't use customers to try to make a 3 megabyte connection because then you're going to really piss off your customer. And that's what they're doing here. That's why that looks like that. Is they're too fast. They don't know what the heck they're doing. And instead of doing it correctly, they just want to take the cheap way. You see, it's not the block that has to request a speed rate. The blocker request, like 258 megabytes, is the router system that has to request the speed rate. So if you say 3 megabytes for a particular landline, then it has to be done through the router. It can't be done through the block. That's where the other screw up is. Because right now, if I went in and I got what's called a monitoring NT program, I could actually just type these in, bypass the security because I already got the bypass protocol through Verizon IP on the port through their own software program. And these numbers I normally wouldn't have. These numbers I normally wouldn't have. But I won't be charging like $39 for high speed when you're screwing up. Now here's the tunneling layers and how they do it through the UDP, and it's a layer 2 tunneling, so that's an IPCT sec, which is called not professional, but enterprise tunneling. So normally it's a layer 1 protocol, and layer 2 is normally the second block server that it goes to. Now, instead of actually doing it correctly, and this is where your DMZ host IP address, but you're gonna host the router and not the person. So this number you would just relay or bridge back actually to the network server. Apparently you guys don't know that because you didn't do it. Some like to use port forwarding, but that's subject to hacking because it's not encrypted, and no anti-security system at Verizon to the block will ever secure that line that way. Now this says a Toretto active. Oh. There it even tells you that it picked up a user. See, I'm curious if you duplicated this number too many times to where you get a conflict of user numbers. Because for me, this would be this, and this would be up until a 50,000 rate on the end only. Unless you did another series in the same series where the 2 would change. And that would go up to a 9 series, and that could be like 400. You could get 450,000 on a single local host number. So doing just these 2 right here. These are already set, the 192 and the 168. You can't change those. But to use this as a remote admin router, that'd be dumb. That's what they just did. But it's not locked out. It's illegal by law to make a person do who said they didn't want to do it. Alright, here's the input rules and the output rules. And anyone with half a brain, if you're going to do an admin, you're not going to tell your customer of how that you're actually trying to make a repeater out of router where you don't have two lines out, and because you need two lines, and one would be an in, one would be an out to the device. That means that would be a double phone line, and then you'd have two Ethernet lines running to pretty much jump to one another and whatnot. But anyway, here's all the protocol rules. See, these are all the protocol rules right there, and then you look down and it shows what rules they made. Now I can tell you this, if you're doing an admin router, like MSN Messenger, then you got at 28 including voice, at 29, TCP ANY 1863. So technically, if you're doing a Wi-Fi phone line, then you need to swap the phone out they have in there. You get call signaling, because this is actually set up for Wi-Fi. You got the DHCP, but you don't see a DHCP operator. Now, when I say DHCP operator, would mean that you would see a DHCP. You see tunneling instead of PPOE instead of DHCP, because it picks up the PPOE and not the DHCP. Now L2TP, so we have someone who has enterprise software or ultimate. IKE is just the encryption. PPTP is protocol transfer. Protocol, and then you got FTP later on. But SIP, FTP, IKE, KE. I like what the guy did. He just came up, put his little tiny little machine on that said, "Oh, this has electricity to it," and then try to say the signal's good. The signal is not good. I can tell you why. Because you would need a separator, and what it does is, and the one kid that came here first, back in the 90s, he put a separator on, and it grounds out to a certain thing. I ain't gonna tell the guy because the guy's kind of cocky that comes up here, but like MGCP, ALG, these are all ports. This is port forwarding, which is dumb. You don't port forward a freaking provider, otherwise everyone will see who your provider is. In the sense of your network server. Remote admin. None. Because he didn't port to himself. See, that's what I don't get. You got an admin here. He's either bridge or ported. But the one I talked to doesn't know what port to bridge it to. Or to send it to. So I definitely know that he's not port forwarded on that. And port forwarding is normally used for user control and not for network data control. In the sense of, oh, this is your access to the internet on a daily basis. How much does it slow it down? To where you're only getting like 1 megabyte? 1.1 megabyte, 1.2 megabyte? Or she claims she has a 3 megabyte. It was a 3 until a few months ago. This is the other thing, if I can get back to it, is the default override. Universal plug and play. That might be it. Nope. 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 That's not it either. Age of Empire. Wow, someone's playing Age of Empire. Rules. That's the fun part. Because this is actually done in such a way that would scramble the fact of certain things. This is like major overkill. Because normally when you shut off a router, you wouldn't shut it off at the router. You'd shut it down. One, you would send a protocol in to shut the router off, but that'd be kind of dumb because then you have to send it back to the factory to get turned back on. So that's what I don't like. The sharing part in this. So easier to find. So if you have a good company, you walk in, they ask you to put all your laptops, desktops, tablets all down on the table, keep them open, and then actually pull the MAC address from who can access and who can't access. They have a MAC address filter here, which works the same way, but they don't use it. So when you say how big of a gap or hole do you have in your provider, this one would be pretty big. Process IN. Okay, that's why that singing thing's coming up. The INIT. That's not internet IT, by the way. That's actually the computer process that he's tapping on memory at 152 gigabyte. Then a 700 heap stack. Just like how they just all do this. If the guy was half intelligent, he'd be talking to someone on the phone. Not a help operator, but the guy making sure that it can talk back and forth. I'm sure the bachelor degree associate business and associate technology guy who's in IT, but not even, he's just help desk because he hasn't got to IT. Wow. So I'll definitely rerouted all this to other games. Tiger Woods, PGA Tour 07. These aren't the defaults either. My SQL. Someone's getting lively. This is on this router. This isn't on anyone else's router. Alright, services. Alright, I'm gonna stop this.